what should I do next? All the code that I have is sitting here. Sorry, I have to build this out because change is there. I'll have to again build it out. Let's say that I do that. I'll come here. Sorry, I'll come here. I will say run pipeline once again. And this is running on what? The develop branch. I'll say run this out. And if I just go back, do you see for which commit is it running? Change the version to 2. Latest version it is, or latest commit it is running. Your build pipeline will always take the last commit, whatever is the latest, and then try to build it out. This is good enough. But let's say I'll slightly increase the complexity. The same thing is being done by 10 developers in your team. Let's say you have 10 developers in your team out here. Each and every developer is doing one commit in particular hour. Meaning in 1 hour, how many commits you have? 10 commits. Which means that after each and every developer commits the code, you'll have to come here, click on this particular pipeline. Meaning as a DevOps engineer, you are not only creating the pipelines, you are also going ahead and doing a pipeline run out here. Until and unless you come here, run the pipeline, they won't get their artifact. They won't see their changes, right? So these are 10 developers. So you'll have to do 10 different times out here to, let's say, go ahead and do that particular build. I'll increase the complexity slightly. Let's say you have 10 different repositories. Each and every repository has one particular pipeline, let's say, associated with it. Each and every repository is getting 10 commits per an hour, which means you have what? 100 commits, which means how many pipeline runs that you have to do? 100 different pipeline runs. If you miss out on anything, that developer at that given day will be blocked, because developers would be project contributors inside a project out there. They probably won't be able to click on that particular run button, because as a developer, I am not expected to have an understanding of the pipeline. That is your job as a DevOps engineer. You figure it out. I'll increase the complexity slightly. Let's say I bring in the third repository. That third repository also has one pipeline. 10 developers are working per an hour. Now see, the amount of, let's say, work that you are doing increases. If you are the only DevOps engineer, it's more worst. See, my organization wants something automatic, which means as a developer, if I commit, I don't have to come to you. As a developer, if I commit, I merge my pull request, I should have a build pipeline automatically triggering out. If the build pipeline is automatically able to trigger out, we will no longer call it as a build. We will call it as a CI, continuous integration. That is the concept of continuous integration, which means that, okay, fine. Someone as you as a DevOps engineer should not come here and click on that particular run pipeline every time there is a pull request. If that happens, it'll become very difficult for me to keep a track of how many pull requests are going in, what is exactly, and all that stuff. So what I can do is I can configure something known as a continuous integration trigger. CI trigger is something that I can configure out here. How can I do that? I just go into my pipeline. I'll say edit. And once I do the edit, I have the option called what? Triggers. Click on this one. Now it's telling enable continuous integration. Just click on this. It's telling include the develop branch. If you have a different branch, you want to include that as well, you can include or exclude branches here as such. Just remove this. I'll just save this out. And whenever guys you're saving something, whenever you're changing some pipeline, please make sure to give a comment here. For example, here I'll say enabled CI trigger. That's it. Now you don't have to do any manual intervention. Now I'm a developer. I'm again coming with a feature branch. I'll say feature Kiran test CI. As I create this out, I'll go inside the branch. I'll change something out here. I'll say enabled CI trigger. Comment it out. I'll say enable CI trigger out here. I comment. raise a pull request, get the approval for that particular pull request. So as a lead, I'll have to come understand what are the different, what is, let's say, the changes out here. I'll say approve. Then you can complete your pull request out here. Code is merged. As and when your code is merged, pipeline is automatically triggered. I didn't do anything. This is the third run for the pipeline. And if you observe, this is running on what? The latest commit. Now see this one. On Friday, it's a manual trigger. Today in the morning, it is a manual trigger. But after that, do you see this individual CI? Identifying this one, you can tell, okay, fine, this is a continuous integration trigger, or this is a manual trigger, and so on and so forth. And if you look at this one, now if you see, now this trigger is automatically taking. You do not do anything. You do not come here, queue this out, did nothing. It automatically took this out and then gave you the artifact at the end of the day, or at the end of this particular pipeline run out here as such. Again, let's say your organization tells, you know what, this is good, but I need one more thing. Every day at 5 p.m., when the development activity is done, I want this pipeline to automatically trigger at, let's say, at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or something like that. Can you give me a schedule? Can you schedule the pipeline to run this out? Yes, of course, you can do that. If you go back into the pipelines, I'll say edit the pipeline. Again, come down under triggers. We enable something called continuous integration. Do you see something called scheduled? I can also add this out. Wherein I can tell, do I want this pipeline from Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday or any given time of the week? I can say instead of UTC, I can take this as IST, which is UTC plus 5:30. And I can say this at around, let's say, something like 5 p.m. in the evening. I want this pipeline to go ahead and, let's say, get triggered. And at every day at, like, it's about 5. Let's say now if I want to, let's say, I demonstrate this out, I will say this at 8:37 or 8:38 or something like that. And if I save this, I'll say enabled schedule, save this out. And in about a minute or so, this pipeline should automatically trigger out. And once this pipeline automatically triggers out, this will go through. If I don't remove the schedule, please remind me to remove this out because if I don't, then tomorrow, day after, and etc., I'll continuously keep triggering out at this particular given time, which is at around 8:38 in the morning. So you can also give something known as a schedule out here. You can tell that, okay, fine, this is the schedule that I want. And on this particular schedule, your pipeline will go ahead and, let's say, get triggered out as such again. You can add multiple schedules out here in this particular pipeline as such out there. Yes. Any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take? I'm sorry, can you come again, please? Cherry pick, yes. I will do the cherry pick as well in today's session. I'll do what is cherry pick, and I'll also cover some more branch policies today, because the branch policies that we did was only one. So I'll do a branch policy and also what is a cherry pick and all these things. But yes, any questions that I can take till you?
Hi Kiran.
Anyone? Good, please.
In in real time, is this process is same like creating feature branch and after creating feature branch and creating PR into develop branch, pushing into the
Mm-hmm.
pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Is this process
Yes.
is same? Then
Yes. The
release the feature.
process is same. Yes, the process is more or less the same. Again, it depends upon your organization on what kind of a branching policy that they are working on. But the process is same out here. In most of the organizations that you work, we follow this: having a feature, a develop, a main, a release, a hotfix branch. These are the 5 branches. These are the 5 basic things basically that you can kind of get out there as such. It will be done by the developer. So code merge, code approvals, all these are done by developers out there. So you do not have to, let's say, intervene in the development procedure, but you enable the developers to do that. How do you enable it? By giving branch policies, by giving repositories, by giving pipelines and etc. In the infrastructure wise, yes. So if I click on this one, again, do you see it got scheduled 34 seconds ago? I did not refresh my page. That's the reason it did not show me, but it got scheduled, and it got scheduled on what? Enable CI trigger, the last commit that I made. And now it's telling scheduled for whoever is, let's say, put this commit, that link scheduled for and etc. And it got scheduled at around 8:38 and triggered this out, ran for 34 seconds, and it also gave me the artifact out here. So you can also put in something known as scheduled triggers out there. Okay, a couple of questions that I want to take is that firstly, someone asked, is that the approval procedure? If you just give one approver, it's very difficult. First, if that a particular approver is not, let's say, present on that particular given day, or if the approver leaves the organization, then what do you do? Second thing, cherry pick. And third thing, the branch policies, which I want to cover out. Let's start with approvals out here, which is a good question. Wherein, if I go into my branch policy, in my branch policy, I have something called what? At least one reviewer out here. I can just scroll down. I can include something called as automatic reviewers. Before I do that, what I'll do is I'll go into my project settings. In here, there is something called permissions. Let's scroll down and let's see. And there's some team and all that stuff. Let's see. Do I have a teams? Okay, this is the Devops team. Okay, fine. And I'll say a new group. I'll say the group name is PR approval group. And I can add multiple members here. Like I'll say classes Azure Devops at gmail.com. And I have multiple team members. I can add multiple team members out here and I can say create this out. Now let's say I only created with one team member out here, but in a real-time environment, when you have multiple team members, you can add multiple team members inside a group. And what I can do is that in the branch, in the policy, I'll just scroll down. There is something called automatically include reviewers. I'll say, okay, fine, great. This is a good option. I'll say add. And in here, I'll say add people. Instead of adding people, I'll say PR and that PR approver group. Oh, not this one, sorry. This is a different project. I'll say PR reviewer or approval group out here. Let's see. Project administrators. Let's see. Approval group or something like that, right? So let's see. PR approval group. Yes. Have two PR approval. Here, something called as PR approval group in a project called what? Devops project 8. I'll take them and I'll say allow requesters to approve their own change. Reason being, I'm the only requester out here. This should not be, let's say, ticked on in a real-time environment out here. I'll say save this out. What this will do is that every time when a developer raises a pull request, let's do that. An update or something like this. Save this out. If a developer or when a developer raises a pull request, I'll change something in my code. I'll say test. From this out, I'll say added a test. And when I create a pull request, and when I create this out, it will now add this particular group as a required approver group out here. And this group can contain more than one people. And now see, a member of the PR approver group must approve this out. So if I approve this out, I'm a member here. That's the reason I can approve. Then you can complete and merge this particular change out here as such. So you can have groups in place of, let's say, individual users to, let's say, avoid, let's say, things like, if the user is not present and etc. So the entire group, anyone from that particular group can approve this out. Now once approved, once merged, then I have two different options. One is called cherry pick. The other is called revert back again. See, cherry pick is very simple, guys. It's called git cherry pick. You see what is revert. You know what is revert. Revert will just go ahead, create a new branch. Whatever changes that you have done, it will undo all that particular changes out here. What cherry pick is going to do is very simple. Let's say if you have multiple branches, let's say you have a develop 1.0, develop 2.0, 3.0, and so on and so forth. Let's do that. Let's create one branch out here. I'll say this is develop, and I'll say this is 10.0. So I have a develop 10.0. I'll go back to my pull request right now. I'll go into the completed pull request. Now, whatever change that went into 9.0, I want the I want the same change to go into 10.0 as well. Same change, what went into 9, I want it to go to 10. In If I do that, what I need to do is I need to come here again, do a pull request out here. For example, I am doing, let's say 9.0. I'll create a feature from the 9.0, and if I do a change here in this particular feature branch, just add one particular word out here, say comment out, create a pull request into develop 9. So if someone comes here, approves this out, I complete my change. Now this change is in 9.0 and this change is not in 10.0 right now. If I want to do the 10.0, again I'll have to pull a new branch, create a pull request into, let's say, the 10.0, because your old branch got deleted right now. To avoid that, Git gives you something called as cherry pick. I'll say cherry pick. It's telling, okay, fine. Use a git cherry pick operation to apply all the changes to another branch. Meaning simply I'll create a new branch instead of you doing it. Now it's telling, okay, fine, this is a new branch. I'll say, okay, fine, the target branch is a develop 10.0 out here. I'll say cherry pick as a single comment. I'll say cherry pick this out. So cherry pick, just simple will do is simple thing. Just create a new branch, adding whatever change that you had in that particular pull request into the new branch out here. Say create, and you can just get this approved. That particular, yes, that's it. That's the only replacement. Cherry pick is the only option here. Again, you get option here again cherry pick, meaning you can target the same change into multiple branches out there. That's the only use case of a cherry pick out here. It's called as a git cherry pick as such. Cherry pick is a concept that comes in git. Yes, generally. In general, git is like in general. So you can do a git cherry pick in, let's say, a GitHub repository or a Bitbucket repository or Azure repository. So whichever uses a git, you can do a cherry pick there. Yes, any questions? Does that answer your question on what cherry pick really means? Does it? Does it? I'm sorry? Mhm. That new code will get into the, firstly, it will create a topic branch. Topic is nothing but a staging branch, just like a feature branch out here. So it'll take all the new code, put it into the feature, use that feature to target it out to, let's say, a branch like developer main or something like that. Just like revert, you have a cherry pick option out there as such. Yes, any more questions here? Let me see if I have any questions there in the chat window. Can you show the output of the pipeline? The output of the pipeline here is nothing but an artifact. So if I go here, click on this one, click on any pipeline as such, it's now telling there is something called published. In here there is, this is called .zip file, which is the output or which is the artifact of my pipeline as such. Yes, any more questions here? Mhm.
Yeah, hi, Kiran.
Okay. Just a second. I'm just taking a question offline. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Yes. Hmm. Correct. For every. Mhm. Correct. Mhm. You can do that. You can do that, but in a classic pipeline, we are working with a classic pipeline. In a classic pipeline, you cannot have periodic, let's say, schedules. You can only define one schedule in a classic. But if you want to do that, you will have to go to a YAML based pipeline, YAML based pipeline, which we did not cover yet, which we'll also see that. But the better way to do it is going with a continuous integration instead of doing every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. The better way to do it is, let's say, a continuous integration out there as such. Yes, any more questions here?
Yeah, hi, Kiran.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, actually, this branch policies and branch creations, how frequently we can do in real time. Actually, we will do at the starting of the sprint or like daily basis like that, anything.
Not a daily basis. It's a one-time activity, I would say. Whenever you create a repository, whenever you create a new repository, then you establish all these things. So it would usually be at the starting of a sprint, wherein we go and create all these things and, let's say, provision all these things out here as such.
Okay. So starting of the print, we need to create all these
Mhm.
and all.
Correct.
Okay. So inputs and all from our side only we need to analyze, or anyone will give the inputs. This and all we need to create naming conventions like that, branches.
The inputs, is it okay? When you say
Mm.
inputs out here, okay. The naming conventions usually is decided at a project level. So usually when you have a team manager and etc., when you work in a project, they decide what kind of a naming convention is it and all that stuff. So
Okay.
yes,
Input.
you will have those inputs that are coming to you.
Okay.
Okay, so I just have to take a call right now. So I will end this session here, and we will continue tomorrow with more about, let's say, Azure, let's say, boards and etc. And then we'll move into something known as self-hosted agents. Okay. Thanks, guys.